Good morning, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this Ramadan 101 workshop. I wanted to start this with a sentence to say, if you are watching this then, and then I kind of remembered that we are going through uncertain times, and hence people might think that something terrible happened to me. I hope by the time you're watching this video that you know that nothing terrible happened to me. I'm just on an essential work travel. And hence I decided to record this video so that I'm able to be present with you, even if it's just through a recording. So what I will do today is that I'm going to go through a brief presentation about Ramadan. At the end of it, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or talk to Imam Ismail and Shazia who are present on this panel. So yeah, thank you again, Stephen, for inviting me here. And what I will do right now is that I'm going to share my screen with everyone, and then we're going to go through this presentation quickly. So I'm calling this presentation Ramadan, the Spiritual Reset. And what we'll do today is that we're going to go through the Adhan, which is the call to prayer, which is a suggestion that Stephen brought up. Then we're going to talk about what is Ramadan, and we're going to talk about fasting in Ramadan. We'll talk about practices and customs during the month of Ramadan, and then what can you do as an organization to help during the month of Ramadan. So the adhan, or the call to prayer. The call to prayer is usually performed in the mosque. And usually when I perform it in the mosque, we have some fancy mics and some ecosystems. Today, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use my fancy podcasting mic. I hope it'll sound somewhat reasonable. The adhan itself was actually established in the 7th century, specifically after the Prophet, peace be upon him, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his companions migrated from Mecca to Medina as refugees. So they left Mecca because the Meccan society back then was an oppressive society that basically politically and physically discriminated against the Muslims and against the Prophet, peace be upon him. So the Prophet, peace be upon him, and the companions basically were commanded by the divine to migrate to Medina because the Meccan people have been bestowing so much torture and so much painful discrimination against them. So once they migrated to Medina, there the call to prayer, or the adhan, was established as a way to inform people that the time of a prayer has entered. Muslims pray 5 times a day, 5 obligatory daily prayers, and each prayer is called to using this adhan, or this call to prayer. And usually you can hear it in, if you go to a Muslim majority country, it gets projected outside of the mosque. Here in Canada, some cities, including Victoria, actually allowed the Muslim community to project the prayer outside of the mosque. And I'm sure you guys must have heard it coming out from the mosque on Quadra Street. But this has been a trend that many municipalities have been allowing their local mosques to do this, which is a great way of introducing people to this call to prayer, or to this ritual. So the call to prayer has a few sentences. What I will do right now is that I am going to recite the adhan, and here I have the translation of each of those statements. And afterward, after I'm done, we'll talk a little bit about this adhan. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. So this was the call to prayer. It is called in the mosque 5 times a day. Each of these 5 times represents or is for one of the 5 daily obligatory prayers. And the sentences go as follow. So it starts with Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. God is greater, God is greater. And it is said, or it is translated as God is greater because there is no other comparative to this statement. So the Muslims believe that God is greater than anything else beside God. Then it says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. I testify and I bear witness that there is no God worthy of worship but the one true God. And then it says, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. I testify and I bear witness that Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the messenger of God. Then it says, Hayya ala salah, come to prayer. Hayya ala al-falah, come to success. Allahu Akbar, God is greater. La ilaha illallah, there's no God worthy of worship but the one true God. So this is, I hope this demystifies what the adhan is. Sometimes you hear it in movies, sometimes you hear it in mosques. Again, if you go to Muslim majority countries, it's usually projected outside and everybody hears it. Now, it is also significant in Ramadan because the adhan for the 4th daily prayer, which is the prayer of the evening, the prayer of the sunset, al-Maghrib, usually is what people wait for in order to start breaking their fast with dates. So the adhan becomes something that people just wait for and they listen to in Muslim majority countries as an indication or as a sign that it is time right now to break one's fast. So what is Ramadan? Ramadan is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar, which is a lunar calendar, which means that it has 11 days difference with the Gregorian calendar, which is the calendar that is used here in North America. And you might have wondered why Ramadan keeps shifting every year, like it's not consistent. That's because the lunar calendar is 11 days short than the Gregorian calendar. So Ramadan keeps going back 11 days every single year. So I remember when I immigrated to Canada 20 years ago, Ramadan was during the winter. It was, the fasting time during the day was very short. But now, 20 years later, now Ramadan is actually in the summer. And it'll continue to shift every year, and then it'll go to winter. And it has this cycle of days that it goes through. So the month of Ramadan actually comes, or that word, or that name comes from the word Ramad in Arabic, which means extreme heat. It can also mean the imposition of the sun upon the sand and the rocks. Now, that month in the Arabian Peninsula is considered a hot month, a summer month, and hence why it is called Ramadan. Now, when Islam was founded in the 7th century, it turned this month of extreme heat into something that one can utilize for spirituality, for fasting, and for extra philanthropy to the community. The main thing that Ramadan is known for is fasting, and people know only one of two types of fasting. So in Ramadan, there are two types of fasting. The first one is what's called the physical fasting, which is there's no food, there's no drink, and there's no intimate relationship from dawn to sunset. Now, I said here sunrise, but I should have said dawn. Dawn is the time before sunrise. It is what is known as the true sunrise. Muslims stop eating from dawn to sunset. But there's also the spiritual fasting, and that spiritual fasting most people don't talk about, but it is that deep connection with the Creator, with the divine, and that can be done through many ways, including acts of worship, rituals, training oneself to hold higher levels of ethos, and even contributing philanthropically to one's community. All these aspects are considered part of the spiritual fasting, and it is a component in Ramadan, and it is a component of fasting that Muslims practice. So this goes on for 30 days, which is not an insignificant number of days. It is basically 1/12 of the annual calendar, which is quite a significant time. And hence introducing Ramadan to you guys and to everyone in the community is also important, because it is a significant portion of the Muslim's life. So there are practices and customs in Ramadan. I will mention a few of them. An important thing to note that it is not all about food. As a matter of fact, despite the person fasting during the day, when they come to break their fast, Islamically and from the Islamic tradition, it is encouraged to not eat as much. You don't want to reach that level of satiation, because that level of extreme satiation actually disconnects the person from their deeper self, from their deeper spiritual being. And the whole purpose behind Ramadan is to connect spiritually with the divine, and connect spiritually with that inner self that you have. So people definitely cook some delicious food at the time of iftar, some really nutritional meals, but it is not all about food. Part also of starting the fast is to have a pre-dawn meal, which is called the suhoor. So Muslims usually wake up early in the morning. Here in Canada during Ramadan, dawn is at 4 a.m. So sometimes it's a bit difficult to have multiple meals from sunset to dawn, but some people would wake up early in the morning, have a small meal, a nutritional meal, so that they can start their fasting. And their fasting lasts for 15 to 16 hours this year here in Canada, because it is during the summer. So no food, no drink for 15 to 16 hours a day, and then the person breaks their fast. Right now it's around 8:40 p.m. And then from there they can eat, they can drink until dawn, which is at around 4 a.m. Now, people are not going to be sitting there eating and drinking all the time, because they have a whole bunch of other rituals to take care of, including the recitation and the studying of the Quran. The Quran is the holy book of the Muslims. And the month of Ramadan is known as the month of the Quran, because theologically Muslims believe that the beginning of the revelation of the Quran happened during the month of Ramadan. And hence Muslims spend a lot of time reciting the Quran and studying it. They also spend a lot of time in charity. So there are two types of financial charities that are known in Islam. There is a general charity, so basically just general contribution, financial contribution. But there's also the zakah, and the zakah, it can be translated as the purifying alms, and it stems from the belief that in everyone's wealth there is an amount that needs to be taken out to be given to the channels of charity in the community. And that is a way to purify that wealth. So for Muslims, there are two types of charity. The first one is called Zakatul Mal, the charity of the wealth. And this is about, or it is 2.5% of the annual savings that the individual has. They usually take that out and then they give it through the channels of charity in the community. And there's also the zakah of al-fitr, which is basically an amount that is given just before the Eid holiday, the Eid celebration that comes at the end of Ramadan, in order to also help the people that are needy in the community to feel that that spiritual celebration as well after the month of Ramadan. So the zakah of the mal, the zakah of the wealth, it can be given out at any time during the year. However, most people choose to give it out during the month of Ramadan because they aim for that multiplicity of the reward from the divine. We also have the Taraweeh, which are the nightly prayers. They are usually performed at mosques. Right now with COVID-19, that is very restrictive. So many people perform these nightly prayers at home. And they usually start here in Canada during the summer in this Ramadan. They start at about 10:30 p.m. So people might be praying for half an hour, they might be praying for an hour, 2 hours, depending how much recitation from the Quran that they want to do. Another aspect, and this is something that is emphasized in the Islamic tradition, is the spiritual and character development, including things like patience. So when a person is fasting, if they haven't trained themselves to fast, just adapting to that physically can make the person a bit anxious, a bit edgy. But even if they are trained to do that or to fast, other people might not be trained to fast, and it might take them a couple of days to kind of come to for their bodies to come to terms with this 15, 16 hours of fasting. So patience is highly encouraged during the month of Ramadan. Also perspective, being able to see this world from a different perspective, whether you see the blessings that the person has or the blessings that you have in that the divine has provided you with, which many people don't have. Like, for example, we choose to not eat and drink for 15 to 16 hours. Many other people in the world, they don't have food to eat and drink, sometimes for multiple days. So that gives that perspective on life, as well as having that perspective that it's not all about materialism. We live in a materialistic world, but there is a spiritual element to us. And in order to help us connect with that, we disconnect from the materialistic world, specifically through stopping the eating and the drinking for that period of fasting. And the last aspect is philanthropy. Philanthropy is something that needs to be practiced. Not everyone can be generous. And as a matter of fact, even generous people, they might feel a bit stingy. So this month of Ramadan comes in with this high encouragement to give from your wealth, to give from your time, to give from your effort, to give from your patience. And the person needs to practice that. And this organism of generosity is something that needs to be trained. So the month of Ramadan comes in and says, okay, this is a chance for you, 30 days, the rewards are multiplied, and you have the whole community just giving. And Muslims throughout the world, they give out billions of dollars in charity during this month. So what can you do to help? One thing that you can do as an organization, if it's possible, is to provide some flexibility in the work hours. So if the work can be done outside of the regular hours, or if the individual can take a bit of a break and then they can finish their work later on, if it's possible, it'll be great to offer that to the individual. They might choose to not take it, but at least offer it. Also, it is great to offer a safe space to perform the daily prayers. The daily prayers for the Muslims, the 5 daily prayers, they're performed in Ramadan and outside of Ramadan. But in Ramadan, this is a way, or this is a time where people want to put higher emphasis on these daily prayers. And each daily prayer might not take 6-7 minutes. So if you have a safe space that, or an empty room, or even a conference room that they can use, when it's empty, it'll be great. I know at my work, for example, the conference rooms, if they're empty, anybody could go and use them. Everyone knows at my work that I perform the daily prayers. So if I have the door closed, then I'm just finishing my prayer, 6-7 minutes, whatever. If someone wants to take a little bit longer, 10 minutes, and then they would step out and come back to work. So if you have such a space, it'll be great to provide it. And then the last, or not the last, the third aspect is that during lunch, the Muslims would not be eating or drinking. So if you can offer to them to kind of, you know, just put their head down on their desks or at a conference room, 20, 30 minutes. That gives them a boost for another 6 to 8 hours. And the final aspect is, yes, you want to be accommodating and you want to be considerate, but there's no need for those awkward moments. Muslims have been fasting for centuries. They most likely would not be offended by you by knowing that you're eating your lunch. So there's no need for those awkward moments around the people who are fasting. So that's it. Let me know if you have any questions, and you could let also Imam Ismail and Shazia know, and they'll be able to answer your questions for you. Thank you very much for listening to this presentation, and I hope you guys have a blast at this workshop, and I will see you later, and goodbye.